On April 22nd, 2025, while the world was busy mourning Pope Francis, the ghost of Thomas Sankara nearly walked again in Burkina Faso. Not as memory, but as a deadly prophecy. The landlocked West African nation danced on the edge of deja vu, nearly losing its revolutionary son, Captain Ibrahim Traore, to the same fate that befell Sankara in 1987, betrayal from within.
According to the detailed plan of the terrorist plotters, there will be a coordinated assault on the presidency of Faso carried out by a group of soldiers who have been recruited by the nation's enemies. This assault should be carried out simultaneously with several large-scale terrorist attacks in order to occupy air assets.
Had it not been for the sharp instincts and swift action of Burkina Faso's intelligence forces, history might have turned a dark page. Traore might have ended up exiled on a remote beach somewhere, or worse, sharing ancestral gossip 6 feet under with his predecessor, Thomas Sankara. On the other side, the nation would have been hijacked by an international syndicate with designs to govern it like a colony for the next 10 to 20 years.
The ultimate goal is to sow total chaos throughout the country in order to place it under the tutelage of an international organization that is capable of regaining control in 10 or 20 years, according to the instigators.
At the center of this chaotic conspiracy is a rogue gallery of military men, with Ivory Coast allegedly playing the role of that shady neighbor who loans you a ladder to climb into trouble. According to Burkina Faso's security minister Mahamadou Sana, the plot was a masterclass in betrayal, orchestrated by a band of renegade officers who thought they could outsmart the nation's intelligence hawks. Leading the charge was Lieutenant Barry Ibrahim, a once respected officer in the Burkinabe Armed Forces, who once belonged to the Military Justice Battalion. Brahman vanished from duty under the guise of leave. Days passed, then weeks. What was initially seen as an unauthorized absence soon triggered a full-blown desertion alert. But what investigators found next left everyone throwing their hands in the air like West Coast rappers in disbelief, including Captain Ibrahim Traore himself.
Religious and traditional leaders were actively solicited to convince certain officers to engage in this particularly deadly mission.
Burkina Faso's intelligence services traced encrypted messages, clandestine meetings, and tactical blueprints that exposed a conspiracy to destabilize the nation. And at the core of it was a network of military defectors and operatives linked to the Ivory Coast, where the alleged puppet masters now orchestrate chaos from afar.
The conspiracy continues to operate actively from their operations center located in Abidjan, with the primary objective of sowing chaos and disorder in Burkina Faso before the month of June arrives.
Among Brahman's co-conspirators, authorities say were Compare Johnny, a seasoned non-commissioned officer, Habolako, a former serviceman turned fugitive, Commander Wedrago Frederick, stationed at the Integrated Operations Center, and Kaet Constantine, a once trusted officer who abandoned post while abroad and is now believed to be operating out of Abidjan.
Communicate. A few weeks ago, intelligence services intercepted several communications between an individual and terrorist leaders regarding details of the positions of defense and internal security forces, Homeland Defense volunteers, as well as military operations. After conducting a thorough technical analysis, the individual was identified as Bahari Abdurrahman, and it turns out that he is an officer serving in the Burkinabe Armed Forces. He is identified as belonging to the Military Justice Battalion. Through thorough research conducted on him within his military unit, intelligence agents were able to uncover that the officer has been irregularly absent for several weeks. As a result of these findings, he is now subject to official desertion procedures. The surveillance of communications from the deserter, Lieutenant Bari Abdurrahman, has revealed additional connections that have piqued the interest of various intelligence services. Among these connections is an armed forces officer named Compaore Juani. Another individual of interest is Zerbo Lauko, a former non-commissioned officer of the Burkinabe army. Additionally, there is an officer currently serving at the Integrated Operations Center of Burkina Faso, Commander Ouedraogo Frederic. Furthermore, the surveillance has identified an armed forces officer who has been training in a European country but has since deserted and relocated to Abidjan. This officer is named Kabure Constantin. The meticulous work of intelligence services will reveal a major plot being prepared against our country. The ultimate goal is to sow total chaos throughout the country in order to place it under the tutelage of an international organization that is capable of regaining control in 10 or 20 years, according to the instigators. Sensitive information was passed to terrorists to intensify attacks against fighting forces and civilians with the aim of inciting revolt against the authorities. Additionally, other strategies were meticulously developed with the aim of disorienting intelligence services.
The plan was meticulous. Not only did it involve the leaking of information to enemy forces to provoke deadly attacks, but it also sought to break the very foundations of the military into pieces. Fake messages, phony blacklists, smear campaigns against officers, religious leaders were to be bribed to sway loyalties. Even members of the Volunteers of the Defense of the Homeland, VDP, were targeted, some demoralized, others bribed. The conspirators planned to launch their final assault in April 2025 with a coordinated attack on the presidency, backed by a storm of terrorism designed to cripple Burkina Faso's air defenses and spark panic.
The objective was to lead these services into making mass arrests within the defense and internal security forces. By doing so, the hope was to create a sense of frustration and instill a pervasive sense of fear among those affected. Manipulation is also carried out through messages broadcast to unjustly provoke. Some and other messages have been sent to unit commanders with the intention of frightening them by indicating that they will be arrested because they are on a so-called blacklist. Religious and traditional leaders were actively solicited to convince certain officers to engage in this particularly deadly mission. This was unfortunately the case with Captain Ouedraogo René David, currently on the run. In the same vein, volunteer defense personnel, VDPs, were contacted with the intention of demoralizing their comrades, and money was sent to them specifically for this dirty work. All these perfidious stratagems were developed with the sole purpose of destructuring the army and sowing chaos. The intelligence services monitored the maneuver that is expected to culminate. According to the detailed plan of the terrorist plotters, on Wednesday, April 16, 2025, there will be a coordinated assault on the presidency of Faso carried out by a group of soldiers who have been recruited by the nation's enemies. This assault should be carried out simultaneously with several large-scale terrorist attacks in order to occupy air assets, in case they fail to destroy them on the ground. A few days before the implementation of this diabolical project, patriotic VDPs and soldiers presented themselves to several services, particularly to intelligence and the FSO presidency, in order to denounce the coup that was in preparation. These denunciations continued until Tuesday, April 15, 2025, and made it possible to arrest the masterminds of the maneuver in Ouagadougou and others fleeing to Ivory Coast. It should be noted that the masterminds who are operating outside the country are all located in Ivory Coast, including the aforementioned individual, Bari Abdraman. The conspiracy continues to operate actively from their operations center located in Abidjan, with the primary objective of sowing chaos and disorder in Burkina Faso before the month of June arrives. Intelligence services continue their surveillance actions and will keep the national public informed of any developments in the situation. Several other involved individuals are being monitored and will face the consequences of their actions when the time comes. We invite the population to remain calm and vigilant at all times, and to report any suspicious activity they may observe. As for the valiant fighting forces, we strongly encourage them to continue their important mission with unwavering determination while remaining constantly vigilant. The homeland or death we shall overcome.